Oh, gee, I just dreamed I was playing an RPG, and it was a dream! Have you ever had an RPG session where the whole game was a dream? Was it satisfying? Probably not. The dream trope in storytelling can be one of the most groan-inducing things that you could put in a story, right? Oh, it was all a dream. None of this happened. It was all a dream. There's some great examples you can probably think of from shows that you've seen, but here's a couple of examples. Think about Lost. Was that a satisfying ending to Lost, really? How many people thought that the Lost was a satisfying ending? It just seemed like a cop-out, right? And I think that's the problem with that kind of, oh, it was just a dream thing. You know, there was also St. Elsewhere, if you're that old to remember that.
How old are you?
The whole series was just like this autistic boy who, he was looking at the snow globe of St. Elsewhere, and it was like, supposedly it was like his imaginings of the whole series. It was just made up in his head.
Wait, is that Feeny?
Now, occasionally it's been used cleverly, but, you know, I think for the most part, you feel cheated, right? And it just feels like it takes the validation of what happened in the narrative and the story and all the drama. It just feels like it's shortchanged because it takes all that away.
Denzel Washington?
It was just a dream, it wasn't real. I think that's the problem with RPG games. It feels the same way. It feels like so much has been taken away from you when that happens.
You could use a dream as a one-shot, so one episode that it's not part of a campaign, but I wouldn't use it as episodes of a campaign. You are robbing people of all the agency, and everything they put into that session in your campaign is essentially lost. What is player agency? Now, player agency means that the players are actively involved in creating the content of the story.
And moving on to choice, you know, it's more kind of what your character decides to do in the game, right? So it's like you present the players with problems, with things that happen to them, and they have to react to that. That's their choice.
Kind of the fun of an RPG is growing your character, you know, seeing your character grow story-wise, seeing them grow power-wise with items and abilities. And that's a really fun part of RPGing. But when you put it in a dream and say you find the lost treasure of Huzamazat, you know, and you get this plate armor and you get this amazing sword and all this stuff, and then you wake up and it's a dream, isn't that disappointing? Does anybody want to do that? Would anybody be satisfied with that? I would say no, and I would never foist out of my players, give them this amazing stuff, and then say, sorry, it was all a dream, too bad.
The biggest problem with dreams in RPGs is that the players lose agency and volition when it comes to how their characters are reacting to the story that's happening. They have the ability to choose what their characters are going to do. Now, the moment that you've taken away the consequences of those choices because it was all a dream, it invalidates everything that they were trying to do. Now, once you're invalidating what the players want to do, then what was the point of doing it in the first place? Now, it may be great for the characters, all right? It may be a great character thing, but it's not great in terms of players. So you might find that there's a variety of different things in literature and movies that may work as dreams, but in a role-playing game, it does not, because of the agency and volition that is invalidated.
We're not saying you can't ever use dreams in your games, right? I just don't think it's a good idea to have the whole session a dream or like a long-term thing. You can have short little things of dreams in your sessions and make it interesting. And I'll tell you a couple ways I use dreams in my games that were interesting and didn't overpower the narrative. They didn't take agency away from the players and that kind of thing. My daughter was running a character and she was after her nemesis. The nemesis worshipped this weird god thing and had a sorcerer who, when the nemesis died, cast his soul shard into my daughter's character, okay? During that adventure, my daughter had become sick with a disease. Later that night, they were at the inn and they heard her fall out of bed and she's feverish and, you know, having delusions and visions and all this kind of stuff. So they cast cure disease on her, they healed her, but I described the dream she was having where her nemesis was alive and was like trying to take her over. I described that narratively. It didn't take a long time out of the game. It didn't, oh, the whole game is invalidated because it's a dream. It just made an interesting RP player thing that if in moments of weakness, that this enemy could try to take her over because the soul shard's inside of her. She's not quite sure what happened, but this is the beginning of starting to suspect that. And, you can do more dreams later on to, bring that out.
In movies and film, you can have a situation like you do in, say, for instance, Inception, where in the end, the final shot makes it ambiguous as to whether it really is some form of dream or whether it was real the whole time. That ambiguity can't really be achieved in a role-playing game unless you're playing a one-shot. Same with a great film like Total Recall. Was it a dream? Was it not a dream? That ambiguity again creeps in, and that is basically almost impossible to do in a role-playing game. So that is why players are always left feeling cheated.
Another example was this prophecy this character had, and she was dreaming about something that was happening to a character in the party. The character had swallowed this gem, okay? And she had a dream where she woke up, and I didn't say it was a dream, I just said you wake up and you see the other character walking, you get up and follow him, and when you get there, he doubles over in pain. He's grabbing his stomach and, oh God! And then his stomach bursts open and these snakes are crawling out. And as they crawl out, this gem, is being pushed out of the gut. And leaning over him is this snake man sorcerer, and he reaches down into the guts and the snakes and grabs the gem and holds it up and laughs, and that's when she wakes up, right? The same thing. It's like giving information to the character, making it interesting, but not forcing the character to do things or taking away their agency, that kind of thing. So it can be useful in game, just be careful with it.
But you don't need to play the entire session that way. You merely just need to have a situation where the players are resting and one of the players may fall asleep, and then you relay some information to them, or they may even perform a check to remember the information once the dream has finished. Now, this could be things like they missed a secret passage, or you could foreshadow things that are going to be happening ahead in the session or in your campaign. That's a great way to do that, is through the sort of dream state. I wouldn't use that for more than one scene, and typically it's best to do it when they are actually resting. You could, of course, use it when they're in some kind of intoxication or something to that effect. That can actually make it quite powerful. But don't run into a thing where you're like the Far Cry game, where you go into these dream states and you're running around, and then everything that you do doesn't have any kind of consequence to it. You got to get to another point, and it's basically just this hard slog to get to that point, but it doesn't really add any benefit to the player or their character.
Have you had games that have really worked as dreams? Have you had games that have been horrible and not worked at all as dreams? We'd love to hear your comments, your suggestions, and how it worked out for you if you've ever been the subject of a dream in somebody's RPG.
Quest Givers is all about creating great stories that you can tell through a role-playing game. And all of these are available on our website, questgivers.com. So every purchase you make there helps us to produce more of those and to produce this free content that you can consume on YouTube. So we thank everyone who has purchased from us. Our latest big compendium, The North Road, which is 16 adventures all compressed into one 424-page document. You can go and get that on our site right now. Also new to our site is a great collaborative module we did with Jeremy from Black Magic's Craft called Harvest. It's creepy, it's cool, and it's great one-night entertainment. Of course, if you like these videos, the like button. You can subscribe to see future videos and click the bell so you are notified when they're released.
Thanks for watching.